Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the afternoon session at the InnoTech Forum. And I'm Yujie Xue, the moderator for today's panel on hydrogen. And today we have an excellent lineup and panelists here, and they'll have years of experience in the energy industry. And in the next 45 minutes, they will share their company's latest development in the hydrogen business, and followed by an in-depth panel discussion. And at the end of the panel, we also have a 10-minute Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please scan the QR code and you can engage with the panelists. So without further ado, let's get into the presentations. First, we have Don. I'd like Don to have a brief presentation on Towngas developments on hydrogen. This is.
I have this one. Okay. Yeah, maybe I spend maybe better. So thank you for coming to this session, and then I would like to share with you about some of the works that have been done by Towngas. So when we talk about hydrogen economy, usually we have a few questions. First, where to get the hydrogen? And secondly, how do we deliver the hydrogen around the cities like Hong Kong? So very fortunate, actually, like for the whole world, at the moment, Hong Kong and Singapore, we are already using hydrogen. If you look at the slide, most of the cities or countries in the world, they are using natural gas. But in Hong Kong, it's very different. Hong Kong and Singapore, we have been using the synthetic gas over 162 years. So if you look at the composition, half of the gas we are now using in Hong Kong actually is hydrogen. And then the remaining 30% is methane, and also the other 20% is carbon dioxide. So you can proudly share with your friends when you are doing cooking or taking hot water shower, you are using hydrogen in Hong Kong. So that's the reason why just now Mr. Xie, he mentioned in Hong Kong, if you want to start like the hydrogen economy, we have some good startups at the moment. First, as I mentioned, we already have some hydrogen already manufactured in Hong Kong. And secondly, we have over 3,700 kilometers of pipeline all over around Hong Kong. In the other words, we are transporting massive amount of hydrogen around Hong Kong, and then maybe the citizen in Hong Kong doesn't even notice about that. You can imagine if we transport the hydrogen with those high-pressure tube trailer, there may be some risk analysis or risk assessment we need to do. But if we transport the gas under the ground, for Hong Kong, over 162 years, there are no problem. So in fact, if Hong Kong really goes for a hydrogen economy, using the current hydrogen in the Towngas may be a good start. So how we use the hydrogen from our Towngas? Actually, there's a very, very simple device that has been used by the chemical industry or factories for decades. We call it PSA, which can separate a mixture of gas. You can, for example, like this one, if you want to separate the mixture of gas, we want to get the hydrogen coming out, we can just talk to the manufacturer, and then they will selectively give us the absorbents that can separate hydrogen from this gas mixture. So we have already have some pilot project already in Hong Kong. So actually, this is one of our customer in Sai Kung. So it's a little bit remote from the power source. So originally, that area is a fish ponds. So the customer ran the area to make it into a sports club. And then the power supply at that venue is a little bit insufficient. So that's why he has an idea. Why not use the Towngas and extract the hydrogen, and then use the hydrogen to drive the fuel cell and generate power? So for this customer, they use the power for the EV charging and also for the lighting. So in other words, if there are some areas in Hong Kong which are far away from the grid or don't have sufficient power supply, this may be an alternative. But last but not the least, you may ask the question, okay, the Towngas, actually the hydrogen is made from fossil fuels, but eventually if there are sufficient amount of green hydrogen available in Hong Kong, we can simply just blend it into our Towngas and then transport through the pipeline to the user, and then everyone can enjoy the green hydrogen. So thank you. That's my sharing for today.
Okay, thank you, Don. It's great to know that hydrogen is already available and in use in Hong Kong for decades, and we have an infrastructure for that. And next, I'd like to welcome Norman to share his presentation of Veolia's hydrogen development with us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think I only have a few minutes, so I will make this quick. So just a quick overview. I think everyone knows Towngas very well, but probably not Veolia itself. So just a very brief introduction of our company. We are a French-based company, but we do operate on an international basis. Close to 57 countries, 58 countries. We have about 220,000 employees worldwide. And in 2023, we have a global revenue of $45 billion euro. So we are a company that has 170 years of experience in terms of environmental management. So mainly focusing on three areas: water management, waste management, and energy management. And so we take three major principles as our mission. That is the regeneration of resources, because we don't believe the linear economy model would be sustainable in the future. Depollution, which means that we try to minimize the pollution that is emitted or discharged into the environment. And more importantly, decarbonization, which we believe is the challenge of the future. And this exact principle leads to this next slide, which is the development of green hydrogen from landfill gas. And so this is one of the projects that Don and actually Secretary Se has mentioned in his address. And so this is a project that is originated from the landfill. So because when operated under a landfill condition, it is actually anaerobic. So in that type of condition, landfill gas is generated. And landfill gas right now is being used for either leachate treatment, electricity generation, but the excess is actually being flared off. So instead of flaring off, we tried to support Hong Kong's Climate Action Plan 2050. And so in order to reduce the total carbon emission so that Hong Kong could reach carbon neutrality by 2050. So in that sense, we could utilize the excess landfill gas that's generated and convert it into hydrogen using a process called steam methane reforming. This has been well tested in France, for example, on wastewater treatment plants or in landfill. This is going to be a very small project, 3,000 kilograms per day, but if this is successful, then it could be transformed into a full-scale facilities in other landfills in Hong Kong, such as Nan and Went. Okay, that's more or less my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Norman. And thank you for sharing the potential of producing hydrogen from landfill gases. And next we have Alfred to share Temple Water's experience in hydrogen with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yujie. Just want to first thank the organizers, SCMP and Hong Kong Invest for the invitation. I'm just going to give a quick overview on Temple Water. We have been a player in the hydrogen space in Hong Kong for the past few years. Okay, yeah, maybe just to give, I think Towngas really needs no introduction. A lot of people know Veolia, but Temple Water perhaps you haven't heard of. But we're an asset manager based in out of Hong Kong. We've been investing into various different sectors over the past 3 or 4 years. We were founded in 2018 out of a spin-off of Investec Bank in the UK and South Africa. So currently we operate 3 investment strategies. One is in private equity, where we focus on mid-market buyout of existing businesses, ranging from consumer retail, healthcare, as well as manufacturing and essential services. We also have a strategy on an impact investment that focuses on hydrogen in particular, as well as on carbon capture and energy storage. And lastly, we focus on some real estate investment that we are currently monitoring and we worked on with our former colleagues at Investec. Some of us may know Temple Water as the parent company of Citybus, of Bravo Transport. In fact, that is where our decarbonization journey began. We have been looking at hydrogen and as well as other alternative fuels to decarbonize Hong Kong's transport system. And here are just kind of a few examples of other portfolio companies, Knight Auto, EconoCare was the motor that we're involved with, and we're, as owners of the business, very much involved in driving the ESG agendas of these businesses. Now, when it comes to the hydrogen and hydrogen strategy, we have been very much involved with Citybus on introducing hydrogen as part of the energy mix in the transition of its vehicles. So I think many of you here are very well aware of Citybus and its operations. We operate 1,800 double-decker buses on Hong Kong Island. It's been a business that we've owned and that we're very proud of. We carry about 1.1 million passengers daily on 230 routes. And as one of the larger public utilities and transport players in Hong Kong, we do contribute to the carbon emissions, and we want to be a solution to carbon emissions. Earlier in the keynote, you have heard that in Citybus, we are moving towards introducing hydrogen. Hydrogen buses. We can go a little bit more in that during the panel session. But beside the bus operation, we're also investors in various different hydrogen technologies. In fact, our impact investment fund is focused on investing into companies that carry deep differentiated technologies that we could potentially bring to Hong Kong as well as others. So just a few names of companies that we previously invested in that is in the hydrogen space. Includes a company called Hysata, which is a alkaline electrolyzer company based out of Australia that produces, that has one of the world's highest energy efficiency in terms of production of hydrogen. We're very proud of that company. Just actually came back this morning from a board meeting that's there from Sydney. We have also recently invested in a company called Marveltech based out of Shanghai that works on hydrogen gas turbines as well as ammonia turbines. And lastly, we are looking at a new project that looks at hydrogen separation from ammonia and other sources. After the event, be happy to speak with you about these individually if there's interest.
Okay, thank you, Alfred, for sharing Temple Water's hydrogen strategy with us. And last but not least, we have Aaron from Sinopec to share his company's plans and developments of hydrogen in Hong Kong.
Thanks, Yujie, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aaron Yu from the Sinopec, and I'm happy to join today's discussion. And first of all, I would like to introduce my company, Sinopec. And as we all know, Sinopec is a traditional oil company, right? But actually, we have been developing the new energy, the green energy in the past decade, especially in hydrogen energy. And because Sinopec believes that the hydrogen energy is one of the important paths to achieve the carbon neutrality in future. So maybe in 2021, Sinopec set a goal that is to become the China's #1 hydrogen energy company. But actually, in fact, this goal has been achieved now because we can see the numbers on the screen. By last year, Sinopec has established 11 hydrogen supply centers in mainland, and totally produced more than 2,000 tons of hydrogen. And this is a very, very numerous numbers. And in the terms of the hydrogen transportation in the fueling station, and we have built 128 hydrogen filling stations, and which is also the largest hydrogen refueling network by one company in the world. And nearly 3,500 tons of hydrogen were refilled for the fuel cell cars by Sinopec last year. And in Hong Kong, actually, Sinopec started developed the hydrogen energy since maybe 2020, and we submitted the application of the building the first public hydrogen filling station in 2022. And the good news is that the auto hydrogen filling station will be open before the end of this year. And we can take a look at our design. And in the first phase, we have 2 hydrogen ionic compressors and 2 filling dispensers. And the maximum daily refueling capacity can reach around 1,000 kilograms. So I think this station is very significant to the development of energy in Hong Kong, because after completion of this station, if you want to buy a hydrogen car, you don't have to worry about having no place to refuel your car, right? So in any way, in short, I'm so confident. I'm full of confidence in the future hydrogen of the Hong Kong. Yes, and this is my sharing. And thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Thank you for sharing Sinopec's experience in the hydrogen business. And now let's move into the panel discussion session. So the Hong Kong government released in June its own hydrogen development strategy, and also this week in the chief executive's policy approach, it also mentioned that hydrogen is a key pillar of Hong Kong economy. So my next question is, what role do you think hydrogen is going to play in the Hong Kong economy, and what opportunities does Hong Kong have in developing its hydrogen industry? So Don, do you have something to share?
Sure. So actually, Hong Kong is a very small city. So the good thing is, if the city is small, like all the stakeholders can be easy to get in touch with the government and the officials to discuss about the matters. Compared to my friends in United States or in mainland China, if they want to get a project to go forward, I mean, they need to spend, days or months, to check with a different level of governments. But in Hong Kong, because as I mentioned, it's a small city, we can, get in touch with the government official very easily. So I think the government support from our past experience is very supportive. So they have the interdepartmental committee which assess our pilot projects, even without regulations or any rules at the beginning. So that really help us to start up the things very fast. And secondly, because Hong Kong have a lot of application scenarios. So as mentioned by Secretary Mr. Cheng, we have buses. Okay, we have over 5,000 double-decker buses in Hong Kong. So there are plenty of vehicles can be changed to hydrogen. And also we have a lot of construction sites in Hong Kong. So according to some statistics, during the very prosperous time, there will be over 1,000 construction sites in Hong Kong working. So these construction sites, usually they use diesel as their power generation fuel, and it's not environmental. And then I think Hong Kong have this kind of a situation or scenario so available, I mean, for the equipment developers and even for the suppliers or the scientists or researchers to make up new instruments to use hydrogen for the Hong Kong. So maybe I left some other time to the other panelists to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. So Alfie, from an investor's perspective, what do you think are the opportunities for Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think Hong Kong, given our role in the financial community in terms of green financing, as well as providing access to investors. I mean, we do have a very strong role to play. Just kind of giving an example, us as investors into the sector, one of the things that we do at Temple Water is that beyond just looking at from an investment angle, we obviously always also want to look at using Hong Kong as a platform to help these companies deploy new technology and help these companies look for ways to demonstrate. And as Don mentioned, Hong Kong does provide that opportunity. We do run a very large fleet of buses. And that's I think mentioned 5,000. And there's also trucks. There's also opportunities to interlink Hong Kong with the rest of the Greater Bay Area through hydrogen in terms of heavy transport, which hydrogen is very well suited for, as well as backup power for data centers and other applications. So I think, just beyond just kind of this pure investment angle, I think there's a lot of angles where we can look into bringing value add for Hong Kong while we do these type of investment projects.
Okay, thank you, Alfred. So next we have one question for each panelist because the panelists here, they all touch on the different segments of the hydrogen ecosystem from supply to distribution. So first to Norman, it's great to mention that the potential of producing hydrogen from landfill gases. My question is, how green do you think this this hydrogen produced from landfill gases is compared to the hydrogen produced from spilling water using renewable energy? Thank you.
All right, I think for this particular question, we can probably separate it into 3 to 4 different angles to look at. The first one is obviously the raw materials. Landfill, it generates gas, as I mentioned, landfill gas under anaerobic condition. And so the raw material itself to convert into hydrogen is actually coming from gas. From electrolysis point of view, it actually comes from water. So the medium is different, but both, because they are not coming from fossil fuel, it is a green material, you could say. In order to make the conversion from this material to hydrogen, so we have to talk about the energy source. So in landfill, the biogas can also be converted into electricity as well. And so if you use landfill gas to power that production site, then it is considered to be green energy as well. On the other hand, for electrolysis, what we are thinking very often is that you use either solar farm or wind farm to power the electrolysis system. And in that sense, that would be green energy as well. But if you use power from the grid itself, so depending on the source, obviously, then it might not be green energy in itself. The third angle that we can look at is the emission. From the steam methane reforming process, one of the byproducts is carbon dioxide. But because it is coming from waste itself, so according to IPCC, this is more biogenic rather than a carbon emission itself. On the other hand, electrolysis, the byproduct is oxygen. So this, we could consider it as green emission itself. The fourth angle that we will look at is probably more in terms of efficiency. We are talking about from steam methane reforming 40 to 50 kilowatt hour to produce 1 kilograms of hydrogen. Whereas for electrolysis, we are talking about 50 to 60 kilograms or kilowatt hour for 1 kilogram of hydrogen produced. So these are mainly the sort of differences between landfill gas and also the hydrogen that is produced from electrolysis.
Okay, thank you, Norman, for giving us on the classification of hydrogen. So next, from supply to distribution, my question is to Don. So Towngas is Hong Kong's sole gas provider and also has the infrastructure to transport hydrogen. My question is, how commercially viable is this approach, and how can Towngas scale up hydrogen extraction and make the process more commercially viable? And what are the barriers from the regulatory, financial, and user side? Thank you.
Thank you. Your questions is very complicated. So actually, let me answer one by one. I think when we started a new business, like for example, like hydrogen, even we use natural gas now to make the hydrogen. We call it low carbon hydrogen. But the point is, if it depends on the market size. If there are more buses, more vehicles are using hydrogen, then our investment can be spread out. For example, if there are only 5 or 10 vehicles at the moment are using hydrogen, but we need to build the infrastructure. Okay, we cannot build an infrastructure that is only good for 5 vehicles. When we do the business, we need to build the infrastructure maybe good for 100 or 200 vehicles, and that is more economic viable. But if the government do not have a roadmap or long-term planning, that is, they only have 5 or 10 vehicles for coming 5 years, then but we invest, the infrastructure is 200. So how can we make it commercially viable? So that's the main problem that we need to see clearly. what's the plan of the government. If they have the roadmap that is, okay, for 5 years, all the diesel buses need to change to either EV or hydrogen, or the heavy vehicles need to change, then for the gas producer or the manufacturers, we have the plan to do things, and then we can spread all the investment. So that is number one thing. And for the number two thing is because the hydrogen we are now manufacturing, although we call it is a low carbon hydrogen, but eventually we need to go for the blue or the green hydrogen. So we also need to source the supply of this green hydrogen. So as I mentioned by Norman, one of the advantages for Hong Kong is we don't have much resources, but we have a lot of garbages. So that's my understanding. Okay, we don't have enough solar, we don't have enough wind, we don't have enough geothermal renewable powers. But the thing is, we have a lot of garbages. So that will be one of the sources that we can generate green hydrogen locally at Hong Kong and use here. Because maybe the other panelists can supplement, maybe a Sinopec friend can supplement. The delivery of hydrogen is very costly. If we don't have the hydrogen source in Hong Kong, we need to get it from Greater Bay Area or even further. Then the costing is not commercially viable. So in conclusion, is as a first step, we can have a green hydrogen in Hong Kong, complement with the government roadmap. But eventually, if the utilization is a lot, we still need to get some help from outside.
Okay, thank you, Zhang. So, Aaron, we just talked about distribution, let's talk about storage. We know that Sinopec not only has the largest hydrogen refilling network in the world, it's also building Hong Kong's first public hydrogen refilling station in Yuen Long. So, can you share with us what significance does Hong Kong hold in Sinopec's global hydrogen ambition? And how do you compare the regulatory framework and the collaboration between different stakeholders in Hong Kong and in mainland China? Thank you.
好，谢谢。为了更能准确的回答，我用普通话跟大家回答这个问题吧。那么刚刚你提到这个香港对于中石化的这个未来的氢能布局的这个整个野心方面呢，就是我想说，香港对于中国石化来说一直都是非常重要的战略市场。那么中国石化从1989年进入香港市场，那么最开始从事国际贸易，到后来我们深耕本地的这个油气的市场。那么长期以来，香港对于中石化来说都是一个非常重要的市场，那么氢能也不例外。那么我想说，发展氢能方面呢，首先对于香港来说，它是在这个碳中和的背景下，它是有需求，这是第一位的。那么第二个呢，刚刚我也讲到，就是中石化现在在内地整个它有全产业链的氢能的布局，有技术，也有这么多年的管理经验。那么我想这一点对于香港现在开始启动推动氢能来说是非常有帮助的。那么反过来，对于中石化来说呢，那么香港是国际化大都市，那么也是中国企业走向世界的重要窗口。那么中石化这么多年在一些技术上的沉淀、管理的经验，那么我想可以通过在香港这个市场跟国际标准或者国际好的管理经验相融合，那么这样对于中国石化未来全球化战略都是非常有意义的。那么第二个就是谈到这个内地或者香港对于加氢站整个监管各个方面有什么不同？那么我想从刚刚我提到的这个我们澳头加氢站的建设经验来跟大家分享一下。那么首先第一位的，因为大家知道肯定就是成本相差很大，因为我们在香港建这个澳头加氢站，整个的建设成本预估呢就肯定要比内地高，起码要4倍以上，这个是成本问题。因为大家最开始关心的肯定是成本问题，这是第一位。那么第二个呢，就是在发展氢能，政府的主导地位是有些不同的。因为在内地，大家可能看到一些地方有一些氢能的策略，那么这些是以政府为主导。那么政府可能会规划未来要建多少个加氢站，有多少个加氢车，然后要补贴是怎么样，是非常具体的。那么在香港呢，因为我们是小政府大市场，是这样一个环境下，那么这样呢，可能更多的是靠市场本身的需求， 或者是我们今天所有的这个从业者的一些意愿，那么是从这市场的需求去考虑的，所以是有些不同。但我觉得无论如何呢，就是内地和香港在加氢站的监管方式上面或者运营经验方面是有很多可以互相学习、互相借鉴的。比如说，内地很好的、现在已经很成熟的一些加氢设备啊、人才啊，可以引入到香港，香港可以直接利用。那么对于内地来说，香港也有一些长期以来我们从事气体燃料、气体能源的这些监管的一些经验，比如说我们的量化风险评估 QRA。那么在内地，我知道他们也很想把香港的 QRA 运用到内地上。那么在加氢站的规划和设计上，那么就会评估风险会更准确。那么对于政府来说，也是一个非常好的工具。所以我觉得还是以互相借鉴为主，互相学习为主。谢谢。
Okay, thank you for sharing his observation of building hydrogen infrastructure in Hong Kong and mainland China. And next, let's talk about application of hydrogen. So, Alfred, Temple Water, hydrogen has always been one of the key focuses of Temple Water's decarbonization fund, and also Temple Water acquired Citybus in 2020. So, how is Citybus hydrogen rollouts and pilot expansion in Hong Kong, and what barriers need to be tackled in order for hydrogen transport and other applications to scale up and work commercially in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so there are a number of different pieces. Maybe I'll just kind of start from the prior journey when we first started the bus. And just for the context for the audience, at Temple Water, we were very much involved working with Citybus, our portfolio company, in the introduction of Hong Kong's first hydrogen bus trial, which started road trials earlier this year. And in that process, I think one thing that is important to note is that it wasn't as simple as just looking outwards. Or, well, I mean, first of all, we can't look within Hong Kong. There wasn't the vehicle available. But additionally, it wasn't just as simple as looking outwards and say, hey, let's get a vehicle and let's run it in Hong Kong. I mean, I think many of us here recognize that in Hong Kong we do have different set of regulations as the mainland, as US and Europe. So we're very unique in that way. And that also in Hong Kong, we do have our own unique set of challenges when it comes to operations, in that in Hong Kong, we have vehicles that operate very, very long hours, in some cases up to 16 hours. We run very, very long routes. It's very hot here. We run very, very strong air conditioning, and we have hills. So even in developing that vehicle, we couldn't just go out and buy one. We worked very much deeply with the engineering team in order to develop a vehicle that is specific for the application of Hong Kong. So, I mean, I think through that process, we have learned a lot along the way. We have learned a lot, not just on the vehicle, but the operating dynamics, how to get fuel, how do we service vehicles, how do we tackle operational and maintenance, and of course working with other industry partners into figuring out how do we fuel these vehicles, and how do we supply hydrogen, and how do we store hydrogen in kind of temporary refueling. And as we look forward, one of the things that's going to be very important is number one, I think industry collaboration it's going to be critical for anything that we do in Hong Kong. Like I said, we are a small city. There's a strong recognition that Citybus can't be done alone. So we're going to have to find partners to work with. And additionally, the cost challenge is one that often gets brought up. Don mentioned it earlier. How do you plan for something in the future and put investment dollars into when you cannot have certainty into the areas? And that's one thing that I think, as industry, we're going to have to work with government and with regulators on sorting out. And this really requires, in my view, really good clarity on policy certainty, and as well as subsidy certainty, that initially at least help trigger some of these adoption. And it can't be short in the sense that, okay, well, here, we're going to give you a little bit of money to do a few, and then we'll talk about it later. It's got to have a longer roadmap so industry can properly plan for transition, for energy transition, and for new adoption. But overall, from our perspective, I mean, we do have that one vehicle operating in the road. You know, our plan is to, at City Bus, is to introduce more vehicles. Next batch will likely be 5. And then we will, you know, together with, as I mentioned, regulator and partners, figure out a roadmap that gets us to meaningful numbers that, of course, help drive some of that cost equation.
Okay, thank you, Alfred, and thank you for all the panelists for sharing their observation from different segments of the hydrogen ecosystem. So I think a lot of audience, they're interested to know about from the policy side, because we had this hydrogen development map from the Hong government in June, and the policy address this week also mentioned hydrogen. My question to panelists is that, do you think these measures and the policies set up by the government, are they enough? And what kind of support and policies do you think are required for you to accelerate the development of hydrogen in Hong Kong? Can we start with maybe Aaron first?
谈到政策方面，我想，香港政府当然从去年开始也有一些很多关于氢能方面的一些标准出台。那么我想，在香港之后出台相关的标准，有一个很重要的原则，就是一定要以香港本地的实际，就是因地制宜，要以实际为主。因为大家知道，如果说现在有很多标准，比如说我们的 safety distance 这个安全距离的来说的话，那么其实国内的标准是非常非常严格的。那么在香港，大家知道土地资源非常有限。那么如果说是直接引用或者套用内地的标准来说，那么对香港发展氢能未必是一件促进的事情。那么所以建议呢，比方说可以参考一些欧美啊，或者其他通过风险评估的方式，那么这样去综合的去评判或者去审批一个站或者是一个 facility 的一个safety distance， 我觉得这样是比较好。这个就是大概我的一些建议吧。那么第二个就是还有一方面就是去年呢，政府也出台了一些关于加氢站的一些 COP， 当然是一些draft 的一些版本。那么我们也看到，在这个 COP 里面是没有针对制氢方面的 production 这部分是没有的。那么在前天，其实我们 CE 的施政报告里面也提到，香港之后可能会发展绿氢。这里肯定会涉及到一些制氢啊 production 的方面。那么其实香港我想 Veolia 现在也就会遇到这个问题。那么其实香港现在目前对于这方面也是没有一些具体的要求和标准的。那么如果说是直接引用内地的，可能标准会非常高。所以这个我觉得是我们之后政府应该去着力去帮我们去解决的一个问题。谢谢。
Okay, thank you, Aaron. So Veolia, as a potential hydrogen producer, what's your idea on this? What kind of support do you think hydrogen companies need from Hong Kong, and how do you think businesses should be prepared for the upcoming regulations?
Well, I think, in terms of right now, all hydrogen-related projects still needs to go through the Climate Change Office, which has a working group of about 10 departments and bureaus. And each project can be considered as unique. And so for each project, each department needs to comment and provide their approval. And as you can imagine, the process can be relatively long. And so, like what Aaron has mentioned, if the government can come up with a set of policy, guidelines, code of practices, standards, that are applicable to the local conditions of Hong Kong, then that would facilitate or allow the company who wants to invest in hydrogen-related projects to be easier or facilitate their investments. More importantly, as I think what Dawn and Alfred mentioned, it provides a clear roadmap for companies to envision where the hydrogen economy is going. So that gives confidence to the investors of hydrogen-related projects to go ahead with the project. Obviously, policy is not the only thing, but going forward, obviously, cost is a major issue that we need to resolve. And so right now, currently, the price of hydrogen is obviously higher than fossil fuel. But that is more to probably economies of scale is one thing. But secondly, it's really important that I think the industry needs to work together in order to ensure that there is a supply and a demand here. Because right now we're working a little bit a chicken and egg thing. We're asking how much the industry needs. But at the same time, the industry is asking how much can we produce. And so this is something that I think the industry needs to work together in order to achieve, a better cost balance for the upcoming future of hydrogen.
Okay, thank you, Norman. And thank you for all the panelists for their valuable insights. We now have some time for questions. I see there's already a question from the audience, which is, what is the projected fuel mix you think hydrogen can contribute to the overall gas and electricity use in Hong Kong in the next 10 years? How and why? So which panelist is willing to volunteer to answer this? The mix of hydrogen in Hong Kong's gas and electricity use.
Don is the utility.
Okay, so as a utility company like Towngas, so actually at the moment we are using LNG, just a natural gas, and naphtha to make the Towngas. That is the 50% of hydrogen is actually from the fossil fuel. So we do have a plan to import green hydrogen from Australia or Malaysia to replace the 50%. Of course, I mean we will do that gradually. So at the moment, actually, there are supplies of the green hydrogen, but of course the price is still high, but we do have the plan. So our plan is about, I believe our company had announced that before, is 2035, we will reduce our carbon footprint down to about 1/5 of the current. So we do have a roadmap, and then we also already find the technology to reduce the carbon footprint. But the point is whether those green feedstock is commercially viable that we can massively adopt. So that's for the perspective from the gas company.
Okay, thank you, Don. So I see next question is to Norman. What is the advantage of landfill gas as compared to hydrogen in Hong Kong? In view of investment opportunities, which area has better prospect in Hong Kong?
All right, this is a specific question, so I guess I will take that. Let's talk a little bit about waste. We only have 2 minutes left, so that might overrun a little bit. Hong Kong is generating, current status is about 11,000 tons of municipal solid waste per day. Okay, this is considered to be very high in this region of the world. And Hong Kong right now is also relying mainly on landfill as its final means of disposal. There are 3 active landfills in Hong Kong. Nan over in Fan Lang, Wen over in Tuen Mun, and Sent over in Cheng O. Cheng O is actually where the pilot plant will be built. And Sent is a very special case because it stopped taking in municipal solid waste since 2016. So because of the reduction in the organic levels in the incoming waste, the amount of gas has been declining over the years. I must apologize for saying that to Don, because Don is our partner for that particular project. But having said that, Nan and Wen, they are currently predominantly taking municipal solid waste in. And so there is a great potential in terms of converting biogas in either electricity or into hydrogen. And why I mention this is because in all of our landfills, besides the use of leachate, for the use of leachate treatment, besides of generating electricity on site, we do have a third option right now, and that is to supply it to either Towngas at Sent and Nan, and to CLP, where they would convert it into electricity in Wen. And so, but there is still an excess of hydrogen or of landfill gas that can be produced on site. And the challenge really is to capture the landfill gas that's generated. And then we could put it back to the plant and then either to use it for electricity purposes or for hydrogen purposes. So hydrogen, in terms of carbon emission, it does have a better impact. And that's why it depends on how the future will look in terms of the hydrogen economy in Hong Kong. Whether they, as I mentioned, there's a great, the amount of landfill gas available at Nen and Wen are much more than Sen. In total, I think all three landfills, we can produce about 20,000 tons of hydrogen per year. And so, depending on the option, it's very difficult to say because you need to look at the financial analysis at the end, whether there is really an off-taker for hydrogen in Hong Kong. So this is something that we need to take into consideration during the your financial model in order to make sure that there is an off-taker that would be willing to take up the hydrogen at the end.
Okay, thank you, Norman. Yeah, I think time is up. Do we have time for another question? Because there are more questions popping up. Do we have enough questions? Okay, sure, no problem. So that's all. Thank you all the panelists for your valuable insights, and thank you for the question from the audience. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much to panel members, and thank you, Yu Jie, for moderating for us.